And welcome everybody once again to another episode of our Multi-Sport Monthly on the TRI312 network. I'm your host, Coach Brian. With me as always is Coach Joy and
Hello.
Coach Chris. And this first video for everyone is to do a little bit of a end of summer or still in summer, end of September, going into October recap.
Yeah, it's technically the fall.
It's
now,
technically
right?
fall, but we still have summer weather.
The leaves are definitely telling us it's fall. The weather, however, as we're all feeling right now in Chicago, summer has not quite left us just yet. I'm not mad at it. How you guys feeling?
I mean, I'm okay with, sunshine and heat, but
how's it feeling at the half marathon this weekend?
It was toasty. It was very toasty with the PR.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Excellent. So we just wanted to do a little bit of a recap of all of the goings on since we last spoke to everybody about a lot of races that have happened since we last chatted. So that is Chicago Triathlon,
yep.
Ironman Wisconsin, and 70.3. We've had a river swim. We've had all sorts of goings on over the last couple of about a month and a half. So let's have that opportunity to sort of recap it all and just sort of get some good highlights as to what's happened in the last couple of weeks, last couple of months. And we're also going to talk a little bit about what's coming over the next month of October and into the holiday season. So with that being said, Coach Chris, I think we actually talked about this offline. You damn near made your own 312 distance challenge yourself between Chicago Tri and Ironman Wisconsin. So just so real quick, tell us a little bit about how you got there, how close you got, and how that experience was between Chicago, the Sydney Marathon, and Ironman Wisconsin.
Yeah, so I didn't think about it until you suggested the idea that the mileage of racing I did in that 2-week span was almost 312 miles. So it almost was perfect. I think,
close.
Actually, now that I think about it, if they had let me do the pro race at Super Tri, I probably would have been lapped out right away, but I might have gotten the extra mileage in.
You're like, look, dude, I just need 5.5 miles.
So yeah,
just let me try.
So basically what I did was I did the Chicago Triple Challenge and the Chicago Divvy races. So 4 races over the Chicago Tri weekend.
Specific
quadruple.
Yeah. So I've done the quadruple several times now. So it's kind of become my routine, although I think next year I might take it off. It was a little exhausting to do everything and also be working around the event and all that. So I was physically exhausted. But yeah, I did the triple challenge and the Divvy super sprint. So 4 races. And then the next day we hopped on a plane and flew to Australia, the other side of the globe. And in Australia, they had the Sydney Marathon. So it was the first year that the Sydney Marathon was part of the World Marathon Majors officially. So we wanted to be there for the first time. It was part of that as a historic event. And I actually they have a 5K race the day before. So I did the 5K and the marathon. And then after we had a couple of days to enjoy Sydney, but then after that, we flew right back, landed, did laundry, repacked everything. And the next day drove up to Madison, Wisconsin. And I raced the half Ironman on Saturday and the full Ironman on Sunday. So I did the Wisconsin double challenge. And if you add it all up, it was, I think, what did we say?
306.7 miles.
306.7 miles of racing. So it was like 5.5 miles of swimming, 220 miles of cycling, and 81 miles or so of running. And for me, it was an experiment. So it's a crazy thing. I wouldn't recommend anybody do this. But
don't.
I geek out on my metabolic numbers. So I knew from a fueling standpoint, the exact effort level I should have been able to maintain to do all of the races with a relatively even, split, even pace, start to finish. And was experimenting with fueling a little bit more than usual and figuring out the right way to recover. And it worked out fine. Like I pretty much was steady all the events. I think
You're still with us.
the Sydney Marathon, I think I missed a negative split at the Sydney Marathon by like a minute or something. But pretty much paced most of the events like dead even start to finish. And for me, it was fun. I got to, especially at the half Ironman and the full Ironman at Wisconsin at the end, and even the Sydney Marathon, I got to race alongside a lot of my own athletes. So the Sydney Marathon, I almost ran the entire event with one of our Team NA's athletes. I had a first timer doing Ironman Wisconsin 70.3, and I got to start the swim start with her. And then at the full Ironman, I had 2 first-time athletes doing their full Ironmans, and I got to start with them as a group in the beginning of the swim. So I got to make sure they made it around the first turn buoy okay, and I got to finish right behind one of them at the finish line too.
Sweet.
So it was just a fun experience for me, just to enjoy being out there and doing something a little bit crazy.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Of all the metrics, was there one in particular that you felt was the most consequential for you about staying healthy through that entire run?
Yeah, I'd definitely say the half Ironman, the Wisconsin 70.3, because that was after the Sydney Marathon. I had to really try to accelerate recovery. So like the days right after Sydney, I did aqua jogging for like half an hour every day to get low impact, like active recovery and fight the inflammation and kind of do some contrast therapy. But then doing the half Ironman the day before a full Ironman was a little bit intimidating. So I had to really hold back, and it was tough because Chicago, the weather was perfect this year. It was like to set a PR. Time. And so I was doing the quadruple, and the whole time I was thinking to myself, oh, if I just did one event, I could have put down a really good time. And then in Sydney, I knew I was doing an Ironman the next weekend. So I'm like, I had a very strict goal of keeping it under a certain heart rate and pace. And then once I got to the Wisconsin half, I knew my legs were already really beat up. And I really had to hold back. And that one, again, had great weather for both the half and the full. So weather-wise, I extremely lucked out on all of the events, really. But during that Wisconsin 7.3, I was super strict on just staying at a very specific pace, because that was the thing that scared me the most is, starting a full Ironman very depleted. So it was a big experiment. I did a lot of fueling. I had a lot of protein shakes. I also used like soft knee braces just to make sure I wasn't going to do anything too crazy and injure myself. And yeah, I felt fine. Honestly, after maybe 3 days after, felt pretty much back to normal. Muscles were definitely sore. Joints were a little bit creaky. But overall I felt fine. So I think the key lesson I learned was, the human body is an amazing machine. And if you really learn how to keep the intensity controlled, you can drastically improve your endurance. And I've talked to our athletes about this many times over the years in different ways and shapes and forms, especially with the Chicago Marathon coming up. The metric I always throw out to people is realizing that even in just a marathon, almost 90% of the runners end up positive splitting, meaning they run the second half slower than the first half.
Yep.
And that's not how you get a good result. You want to negative split. You want to finish the second half of a race faster than the first half. And all of these endurance challenges, it's the same pacing strategy should be what really gets you the best result. And so for me, this was just one giant experiment of taking a 2-week span of races and treating it as one big race and pacing everything with a negative split. And it worked out. So
nice.
I'm here. I'm still alive.
Still a little bit disappointed we didn't get the full 3-1-2 experience.
I know.
But nevertheless, very impressive. And speaking of impressive accomplishments, Joy, how was the Divvy division this year at Chicago?
So I haven't raced Chicago Tri in over 20 plus years. So I kind of put my foot down this year that I wanted to do the Divvy because I always worked the Chicago Tri Sunday, walking the break wall, talking people through the swim, you know, helping them rethink their life choices. So the goal for the divvy was just to have fun. I did 10 miles of running before the divvy because I do have a marathon in 13 days. And the swim was fun. No wetsuit because the water was warm. I mean, it was like, oh, this is lovely. Yeah. There were some folks who were like, oh, this is cold. I'm like, cold? Where are you guys from? I did the bike and the run in a purple tutu. And on the divvy, I do commute via divvy. If you don't know what a divvy bike is, if you're in New York and other major cities, they have these city bikes. They're very heavy. They have 3 gears. They're about 44 pounds. So I do commute to work on them in the summer. And the best part of it, besides seeing Chris on the divvy in Arrow, which no, I did chick a dude who was on a very expensive road bike, and I just on your left with the little bell, and he just looked at me like, she's wearing a tutu, and she beat me. Okay, so and the goose crossing. So a couple. Oh. If you know about Chicago, we have a lot of these gangster geese. They decided they were going to take over the bike path, the bike lane, and I just rang my bell and yelled at them. But if you're intimidated about the triathlon, the super sprint is the way to go. If you don't know you don't have a bike, guess what? Do the divvy division. It is the most fun I've ever had in a race.
So tell me a little bit, because I didn't get a chance to do that with you guys this year. I've never actually physically seen like the process by which you select your divvy bike. So for those that like, I want to do a try, I don't have a bike, this sounds intriguing, set the day up for. So when you get there, how does the experience work? How does selecting your bike work? What does that look like, and how easy is the process?
Well, actually, the divvy bikes are actually already there in transition. You just pick a bike, slap your race number on it, and set up your transition there, right there. That was the fastest transition setup I've ever had in under 30 seconds.
Yeah, for people who don't like the logistics of and gear requirements for triathlon, that is literally, I walk into transition with like my running shoes and helmet in a bag and a little mat. And I just plop it down, put the number on it.
It doesn't matter which one.
Doesn't matter one because each one is you're on a level playing field.
Right.
It's first come, first serve. Okay. So we do recommend, get there on time.
And is there any personal setup that you have to do for the bike?
Just setting up the saddle height. That's the only thing that you have to set up is the saddle height.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of the easiest triathlons, and it's, from my point of view, and I've done a couple triathlons in my day.
Just a few.
It's, I like it because it's a level playing field, right? Like everyone's got the same equipment. Doesn't matter, you can't buy yourself free speed with a fancy bike. So it's just like a very, grassroots type of, triathlon experience. And yeah, it's fun, but the Chicago Tri this year, actually the popularity of the super sprint distance took off. And we sold out different divisions pretty early on. So if people are thinking about doing the divvy in the future, I would definitely recommend register, commit early, because there's only so many divvy bikes that they have in the transition area.
Only 100 bikes. Yeah. Okay. So 100 folks, that's it.
All right. And then this is the second year for the professional division, the Super Tri Actual Pros, that specific event that's happening around the Chicago Tri events. Now, last year they had the pro event happen on the Sunday afternoon, logistically to really allow for probably their core demographic to really get a chance to watch the event. Wasn't great because all the people that were finishing the Chicago Tri, they were just trying to get back into transition, get their bikes, get their stuff while that was going on. This year, they moved it to Saturday afternoon. Chris, you do work for Super Tri. From y'all's perspective, how did that adjustment fare for spectating and being able to see the pros go at it on a Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, I think people liked it a lot more. Like you could basically, if you're doing the races on Sunday, the prior year with the hot weather and then having to wait around and all that for the pro race was not appealing to most. Yeah. So being able to be, on Saturday, going to the expo, picking up your packet, and then if you're dropping your bike off early, you're going over to the transition area. So the pro race was put in the afternoon so that it made very, easy logistics for people to go pick up the packet, walk over to transition, drop your bike off, and then watch the pro race. So I think that worked out pretty well. I was tied up. I did the two super sprint races in the Divvy, and pretty much hopped in a car, packed up everything real quick, drove straight down, and I got the message from our Super Tri team that they needed a few more people to help with the doping control. Oh. So I literally was still like my tri kit on, like quickly changed shirts and ran down to the pro race. So I got to watch it and help out with the doping control to make sure the athletes who compete, as soon as they win, especially like the first place overall, they go right into doping control basically. Okay. So they have to wait around and flush out fluids and hydrate and hang around for that. So I got to see the behind the scenes of the races as well as watching the races myself.
So I do have that question. So I know we've been sending out some different informationals for our crew of triathletes out there, and if they're interested in supporting or volunteering for that event, I think there may be some level of intimidation, like volunteering for a pro event, whether it's for doping control or other things and needs that they have to get things set up and run effectively. From y'all's perspective, like having volunteered and supported and those kind of things, like what does that process look like? Is it as intimidating as it may sound? What was your process by being there to support and or being involved in that process?
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize, so this is a good insider tip for people that want to do the triathlon. If the expensive signing up for a big race like that is intimidating, if you volunteer, you get 50% off race registration. Yeah. And for people that volunteer for like multiple positions or a lead position, we sometimes even comp a full race entry. So it's a great way to not just see the behind the scenes and get involved and give back to the community, but you can also save yourself a lot of money too. Yes. So a lot of our regular athletes who come back every year, they'll usually find some type of volunteering opportunity, whether it's like volunteering at the kids' tri on Saturday morning, or volunteering for the pro race. And there's not a lot of requirements. Like I never did the doping control, and basically I showed up. They said, okay, fill out this form, and then I had to take a little virtual course to get like certified to be a doping facilitator, administrator, or whatever. And so now I can go, and if I want to go and help out at doping control at other events, I've completed the course and the paperwork. So it kind of opens the door to just seeing the race from a different angle. And I got to hang out with the pro athletes, before and after the race. So I got to see, how they do things, how they do their cool downs after the race, what they're doing for recovery. So even though I've done a lot of triathlons, I learned a couple new things just being part of that behind the scenes aspect of that race. I definitely, 2 thumbs up, encourage anyone that wants to kind of get a more unique perspective on triathlon, volunteer for the pro races or just any of the volunteer shifts, the expo, pre-race, there's even volunteering. The other pro race volunteering opportunity we had this year was the setup of the venue. It's actually setting up the course and helping them with all the bikes and equipment and all that stuff. So, definitely something I think next year we'll probably end up doing it the same way, having that pro race on Saturday afternoon. So once we open up the volunteer sign up, be sure to pull the trigger and get yourself one of those unique volunteering opportunities.
Excellent. Well, I know this wasn't necessarily volunteering per se, but I did get a chance to actually walk the break wall with you, Joy,
yes,
last year to help get those last few swimmers in. That was an amazing experience.
Yes.
I hadn't had a chance to really do that before. And it was a lot of fun just to really see like those last couple of swimmers come in and just watch from those of us that were on the break wall, their family and friends that were there to support them, everybody that was out in the water to support, whether they're on kayaks or paddle boards or boats, whatever, just really the amount of energy and support bringing those last couple of swimmers in. That was a lot of fun. So, so if you ever get a chance to, whether if it's volunteering or finding Joy in her tutu on the great wall, to support the athletes out there. Like anything that we can do to help keep providing good quality support and energy for our athletes year to year is a good thing.
Yes.
So, cool. All right. Any other notes coming up from the last couple months before we jump into our Ironman conversation? Anything from the last couple months that really stood out to you guys in terms of the world of triathlon or endurance sport?
I mean, there was a lot, from the USAT Nationals, earlier that month. We might have done that in a video.
No, we I think we talked about that.
We might have done that one already, but that was,
the sprint portion got canceled on Sunday, so I think we did talk about that, right?
But yeah, and there's so many races at the end of summer. It's like every weekend there's a triathlon or something going on, so it's sometimes hard to keep track of everything. But yeah, Chicago Tri is always the big end of summer for the most part. Triathlon in Chicago,
with it being one of the largest triathlons in the area, plus being in the world, also being one of the largest kids triathlon. So if you have kids, you want to get them doing something over the summer, have them train for a kids triathlon.
Yeah, and I think this year the metric that was the most impressive, because it's been growing every year actually, is almost 40% of people racing were first timers doing Chicago Tri. So for a lot of people, it's their first time visiting Chicago. For a lot of people, it's their first ever triathlon experience. So it's just fun to be part of that. But yeah, other than that, there were a lot of other events going on. We had the Big Shoulders open water swim as well. But I feel like after Chicago and once we get into September, it just becomes Ironman season after that. Not locally as much as regionally, but yeah, that seemed to be the big focus leading into our next big event locally, the Chicago Marathon, which is right around the corner, and
which we will be talking about here soon.
Yes,
and the other, like, now they've if you haven't seen it in the news, the Chicago River Swim. So now we basically in Chicago have, I would say pretty much the three biggest events potentially. The swim is not there yet in participation numbers, but from the unique epic nature, the largest triathlon in the world, pretty much the largest marathon and world's fastest course with the Chicago Marathon, and the Chicago River Swim, which is going to very quickly become one of the majors of swimming, so to speak.
And we're going to talk more.
And we'll talk about each one of those. So
we had major representation from USA Swimming. So a lot of focus in on the Chicago River Swim this year.
So it's been a busy end of summer.
Very.
Let's we'll dive into Ironman next.
Yeah. All right. So stay tuned. We've got more videos coming along the way. Make sure you like and subscribe, get notifications for any and all of our future videos coming up about conversations we're going to have about specific events, or specific things that either have happened or are about to come for more with the TRI312 network. So great recap, guys. Chris, again, congratulations on your almost 312. Congrats, Joy, on your half marathon this past weekend and on your Divvy division and the 2-2. And we will now talk a little bit more about Ironman coming up and our Chicago River Swim and even more things to come with the Super Tri into this year and next.